Coming up on this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
We're highlighting some of the educational opportunities offered by NCBA, including the Stockmanship and Stewardship program. Plus, see how the Natural Resources Conservation Service can help you protect and improve your land.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Hello and welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Ochsner. Cattle producers know it's vital to stay engaged in the policy process, but that's not easy to do on a daily basis when you've got a farm or ranch to run. That's where NCBA's government affairs staff comes in, as they work every day on a number of issues that could impact your operation. We've got an update on what's happening in our nation's capital in this week's Beltway Beef Spotlight.
Over the past few weeks, you've heard from us multiple times about the need for you to engage with your members of Congress in opposition to some really harmful amendments in the appropriations process and the funding battles we've seen on Capitol Hill, specifically targeting the checkoff system. Not just the beef checkoff, but really all of the commodity checkoffs have been under attack from a range of groups, all the way from radical animal rights activists to obscure fringe conservative groups and the environmental community in the form of the Sierra Club, among others. Last week in Congress, we saw all of that come to a head with several really impactful votes. You met the challenge across the country and sent thousands of letters to Capitol Hill. You called your members of Congress, your state affiliates engaged, and we defeated that anti-checkoff amendment with 377 members of Congress voting our way and only 49 voting against that harmful amendment. That is a huge win in Washington, D.C. by anybody's standard. And it shows the strength of the grassroots cattle producers across the country when they engage in an issue like this and make their voices heard. Now we need to talk about those 49 members of Congress who turned their backs on American agriculture and instead chose to vote with the radical animal rights community and the Sierra Club of the United States. These are organizations that do not care about farmers and ranchers. They're organizations that do not care where their food comes from, and they sure don't care how they hurt consumers. The list of those members that voted against American agriculture and voted against you is scrolling past your screen right now. If you see your member of Congress on that list, pick up the phone and call their office and let them know you see them. You know they voted against farmers and ranchers around the country and that you're going to be watching them moving forward. This is not acceptable behavior from folks who claim to support farmers and ranchers and then vote against their best interests when they get to Washington and sell out to special interests like the Sierra Club, NASPCA, and HSUS. Thank you for what you do. You've made this industry proud in the last few weeks, and we're going to continue this fight because I guarantee these people aren't going away. But we've got the upper hand, and we're going to continue to educate consumers, voters, and members of Congress about the strength and power of this industry and how much good we're doing both here and around the world. Thank you.
If you want to stay up to date on all the key issues and policies coming out of Washington, D.C., while simultaneously supporting the work being done on your behalf, you need to become a member of NCBA. It's easy to do. Just call 866-233-3872 or visit the website ncba.org. Be sure to use the code C2C for a special membership offer for our viewers. The National Cattlemen's Beef Association is also focused on education to ensure producers have access to the latest production and management techniques. Joining us now to discuss these efforts is Josh White, Senior Executive Director of Producer Education and Sustainability for NCBA. Josh, why is it so important that NCBA places an emphasis on producer education?
Well, NCBA's mission is all about being the trusted leader in the beef cattle industry. And so, our team in Washington, D.C. does an amazing job leading on the point of the spear, so to speak, with regulatory and legislative issues. But, not everything that affects farmers and ranchers originates out of D.C. We still have a lot of autonomy out there to run our businesses, make a lot of decisions. And even coming out of some of that legislative and regulatory action, there's education needed, whether it's around taxes or land management and grazing and things. So, we fit in really nicely there. When we talk to producers about why they want to be a member of NCBA, producer education ranks really highly.
CattleCon is coming up quickly, and of course, Cattlemen's College is always such an important part of that event. Tell us what you have in store this year for Cattlemen's College.
Well, we're trying something completely different, actually, with our schedule. We're stretching Cattlemen's College programming throughout the week this year. So a new wrinkle that hopefully helps attendees be able to attend more sessions, to work it into their other priorities, whether that's in the trade show or in committees, instead of cramming it all kind of in on the front end. So we will do a luncheon and a keynote right on the front end on Wednesday, which is our tradition, and then move into programming throughout the day on Thursday and Friday. And we'll also have a classroom session within the trade show. So
fantastic.
Different opportunities, different areas to make it more convenient for people to access that educational content.
And there are other educational opportunities at CattleCon. Tell us about some of those.
Right. I mean, if you've never been, wow, there's always something going on. So it's really more about prioritization when you get there. So hopefully you make a good plan. We have the demonstration arena also in the trade show that we run, with focus on BQA and cattle handling, BQA principles. Sometimes we wander into other areas like cattle handling as it relates to transportation or even grazing management, and chute side demonstrations. Sometimes we'll take a look at technology that can be used chute side or within that. So really cool stuff going on in the trade show. There's also the learning lounge, the cattle chats, which are shorter that you can just drop in and out of. Right there in the center of the trade show. So always something going on in the trade show. Then there's other things like the DC update. I mentioned how critical that regulatory and legislative area is. So just even if you're not on a committee, being able to learn about what's going on in those environments that might affect you on the ranch. And then we have a sustainability forum that we're excited about this year. Lanco sponsors that. Of course, Zoetis is a great partner for Cattlemen's College. We can't do this stuff without great partners out there.
You mentioned grazing, and clearly grazing plans and grazing management has always been important, but it's gaining a lot more attention. What kind of educational opportunities do you have in that regard?
We're, again, something brand new. We're actually doing a grazing workshop on Tuesday afternoon. So if you're one of the folks that has been coming in on Tuesday and looking forward to some of those sessions that we used to have for Cattlemen's College on Tuesday afternoon, especially if you're a cow-calf stocker, somebody that uses grazing in your operation, be sure and highlight that on your schedule and join us. We're really excited about it. We will start off with a luncheon and a keynote, but then this is really a workshop. We're going to break into rooms based on your area of the country, rainfall, sort of grazing system, and then we'll have experts from Beef Cattle Extension, Noble, some other technical experts, as well as folks that are service providers. So whether that's about water, fencing, looking at solar, other things that help you develop a grazing program and actually make it work. We'll also have some producers, Environmental Stewardship Award winners from the past in there to give tips. We'll have a workbook for attendees. You'll walk out of there with a start on a custom grazing management plan where you've been able to interact one-on-one with those subject matter experts, industry solution providers. We think it's going to be an amazing event. So our team's super excited about it.
That sounds like a very practical and useful kind of workshop.
That's the goal.
One last question. A lot of people ask me, about the cost of attending, and there is certainly a cost by the time you get down there and pay registration and so forth, but we should remind people there is an opportunity to get reimbursed for some of these educational activities. Tell us about that. That's
right. 100%. Our Rancher Resilience Grant Program, we're a few years into that now. That's a partnership between the National Cattlemen's Foundation, NCBA, and Cargill. And they funded that a few years ago. They continue to prioritize helping ranchers get to really quality educational events. With that shift of Cattlemen's College throughout the week and other educational opportunities throughout the week, we're even reimbursing at a higher level this year.
Wow.
So full registration, the education package, which includes Cattlemen's College. Hotel fee is reimbursed, your hotel costs throughout the week. That's for the first 75 applicants. So we do have a little bit of a lid on that, so get in there early. Once those spots are taken, we are going to shift over and still make available a full education package registration reimbursement. We just won't have the hotel reimbursement in that second wave. So still a high value to help people get there, attend, and enjoy convention without the stress on the finances.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for all you and your team does to keep this fresh and new and exciting, and most importantly, practical to those of us who are trying to make a living with cattle.
Well, we live and breathe the cattle industry. We love it, and we want to do everything we can to help producers out there.
Thanks, Josh. Now, to find out more about the programs Josh talked about and all the education information available to beef producers, you can visit ncba.org and click on the Producer tab at the top of the page. Still to come on Cattlemen, we'll visit a Stockmanship and Stewardship event in Nebraska and hear from some of the participants. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
There's never a dull moment for the Nelsons. Fifth-generation Montana ranchers. Since 1868, they've been herding cattle, reeling in trout, and exploring Paradise Valley from their backyard. Here's to another 150 years of adventure. There's a story in every piece of land. Run with us on a John Deere Gator XUV and start telling yours.
Earlier in the show, we talked about producer education opportunities through NCBA. Now, let's take a look at one of the regional Stockmanship and Stewardship events presented by NCBA. Cattlemen to Cattlemen reporter Brad Bulla has the story.
Stockmanship and Stewardship is a unique two-day experience where producers learn cutting-edge techniques and get valuable hands-on training to become better animal caretakers. These clinics are led by a great team of experts who present live demonstrations of low-stress cattle handling.
At these Stockmanship and Stewardship events, we're very, very pleased to be able to do a hands-on portion at all of these where we get on horseback or we get on foot and we show different ways of low-stress cattle handling, different ways to be effective in our movements.
I saw the guys work them cattle and I was just jaw-dropping. You know, cattle wasn't jumping around, they didn't whistle, they didn't yell, they just worked calmly and they pushed the cattle or moved them where they needed them.
Got 2 grandchildren that help on the farm a lot, and we think it's beneficial for them as well as us to learn how to handle cattle. So we just look for these type of events, and we feel the more you could go to, the more you can learn.
These regional events are for producers of all ages and skill levels. And moving around the country allows the experts to highlight the best practices in different regions.
We really try to use subject matter experts in those regions to bring the latest information that really pertains to producers in that local area and in those surrounding states for each location.
We tailor our presentation to the region or the audience that we have. And obviously all around the country we have different areas that have different type of stockmen, but the basics are all the same, but we just kind of change the tone a little bit. So I think it's real important to present things in a way that it fits the audience. And that's what we try to do at our Stockmanship and Stewardship programs.
Many of the sessions in Nebraska were presented in Spanish to help those who work on cattle operations every day, but English isn't their first language.
The Stockmanship and Stewardship program has a commitment to the total cattle industry workforce. So these events are a great opportunity for everyone to come together and really bring it all together and learn these skills that they can then take back to their operation.
We are all responsible for what that product looks like at the very end. There is no position that is not important. Everyone working for a feed yard needs to be exposed to a basic level of understanding or better, advanced level of cattle handling, cattle health, animal welfare, concepts of how to best move cattle, what things to avoid, and more importantly perhaps how their role serves the rest of the feed yard and the rest of mankind.
Another topic covered was grazing management. and speakers explained how cattle handling is a valuable tool to help manage forage, especially during a drought.
Grazing management is just so crucial to these producers so they can optimize their cow herd, so their cow herd can continue to be profitable and to be even more profitable. You know, there's a ton of updated information out there, and we've been working with a lot of subject matter experts in the field, so we're really highlighting that at all of our events this year.
It was really educational and got to really see how we can change our operations just slightly to advance our production on our farms and ranches when we're suffering from a drought.
Merck Animal Health sponsored this event, and a steak lunch was provided by Cargill and Certified Angus Beef. Additional support for the program comes from the Chekhov-funded Beef Quality Assurance Program, and those BQA principles form the foundation for all of the lessons.
Well, I believe BQA sets the basic standard by which we must guide our actions in the feedlot or at the ranch, at the grow yard, and particularly during transport, to ensure that all the efforts that we have undertaken, nutrition, management, health, genetics, etc., reach their destination in the most appropriate manner.
BQA is so important because it provides an opportunity for us to educate ourselves on how we can be good stewards of our animals and of our land and provide the best quality protein source that consumers can get.
There is value when it comes to being BQA certified at the cow-calf level. When feed yards are purchasing cattle from a BQA certified cow-calf operator, they know that those cattle were handled the right way. They know those cattle were more than likely preconditioned, received their vaccines, and are potentially preconditioned the right way. And many of those feed yards are willing to pay more for those calves when they show up.
Certified Angus Beef brand loves to support the Stockmanship and Stewardship events because of the continuous education that provides for the cattlemen. And we also love the fact that all those producers that attend these programs get the chance to become Beef Quality Assurance certified, which we really feel like is a perfect way for us to use that to increase consumer demand and consumer trust in what we do.
So if you're looking for an educational experience unlike any other, be sure to visit a Stockmanship and Stewardship event near you.
You get more out of these than sitting in a seminar or watching it on YouTube or video. So it's very, very beneficial. I encourage everyone who's handling cattle or they got young children that are learning how to do it to try to attend more of these.
There's always something new to learn. So I'll take that knowledge to my boss and we'll just sit down, hey, I learned this, I saw that. So I'll just spread out the knowledge with them to see where we could work and improve over at the feed yard.
And good stockmanship saves time, creates animals that work better the next time, so the next time you work them, they're even better than the last time. And that just, the whole world all works together and have kind of a holistic system of working animals with safety, productivity, and quality.
I think there's a lot of value that you get in the fellowship, a lot of value that you get in the education, and every one of these that you come to, you're going to get something that's going to benefit your operation that you'll be able to take home.
Reporting from Nebraska, I'm Brad Bulla for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Remember, you can get reimbursed for attending impactful educational events like Stockmanship and Stewardship through the Rancher Resilience Grant. For more information on how to apply, go to the website ncba.org and click on the Producers tab. Still to come on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll show you how the Natural Resources Conservation Service can help you improve your land and the environment for your cattle. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
CattleCon 24 is marching onward to Orlando, January 31st to February 2nd, 2024. Have your say in the future of the industry, network with fellow producers, or connect with friendly faces. Plus, the NCBA trade show will be on site with over 385,000 square feet of the latest and greatest in the cattle business to help your operation stay competitive and sustainable. Learn more at convention.ncba.org.
This beef quality assurance tip is funded by the Beef Checkoff.
Hi, I'm Jesse Fulton. Today I want to talk to you about transportation. Each year, millions of cattle are transported across the United States. Whether it be a bumper pull trailer, a gooseneck trailer, or a cattle pot going down the roadway, these act as big billboards for the beef industry. So in order to ensure consumer confidence, we need to ensure our animals are fit for transport. When assessing fitness for transport of our cattle, we are looking at three things: the health status of the animal, to ensure that we are not causing any biosecurity issues, the mobility score of the animal, and the body condition score of the animal to ensure these animals are able to withstand the rigors of transport. To find out more about transportation, the Beef Quality Assurance Program, or the Beef Quality Assurance Transportation Program, go to bqa.org.
The Beef Quality Assurance Program is funded by the Beef Checkoff.
We all know it's a big job to manage the land and water resources on our cattle operations, especially as these commodities become more limited and more valuable. That's where NRCS, the USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service, can play an important role. NRCS offers farmers and ranchers the technical and financial assistance they need to protect and improve the resources in their care. Cattlemen to Cattlemen reporter Brian Baxter has a closer look at the work NRCS is doing to help producers in the Great Plains states.
Stretching from Texas to North Dakota, the Great Plains is a critical region for U.S. beef cattle production. But the health and productivity of these lands are severely threatened by woody plant encroachment. To fight back, ranchers are partnering through an NRCS initiative called Working Lands for Wildlife and a multi-state effort called the Great Plains Grassland Initiative, or GPGI.
I had the opportunity to serve on an advisory committee for the Great Plains Grassland Initiative. I was very humbled that they had asked me to do so. It gave us an opportunity to actually have rancher input. And so having participated in some cost share programs like EQIP in years past, it gave us some insight to maybe tweak those programs and maybe see where they could be improved.
We have a producer board that we respond to within Kansas. And that producer board has been alongside us from the get-go. They're actually probably one of the driving forces for us being successful in Kansas. And so for that ranching community, along with our partners, to step up and say grasslands are important and we have threats and we need to address them, that's probably what makes me the most proud.
What the Great Plains Grassland Initiative has really allowed us to do is it's really allowed us to have actual wins on the grassland. Ourselves and many of the other producers, we cut more and more trees every year and we feel like we have nothing to show for it. When Direct Tidwell came along and showed us a study and the Great Plains Grasslands Initiative started, it gave us something to really get a hold of where we could actually win and make progress on our grasslands. And that's really important to us, and it keeps that fire going so that we can keep going, make progress.
The Great Plains Grassland Initiative is kind of a new way to attack an old problem. And I like the idea of cleaning up your clean ground, seeing success, then going at the trees, the infestations, the heavier infestations.
Invasive trees and woody plants don't respect fence lines or state lines, so all of the Great Plains is seeing significant loss of valuable grazing lands and wildlife habitat. The challenge is bigger than any one landowner can tackle. That's where NRCS and the Great Plains Grasslands Initiative provides the expertise and the cost sharing needed.
And this whole program stands on kind of three pillars. It's a rancher-driven approach, it's a science-informed approach, and finally then it's an agency-supported. So me as working with an agency is how do we come alongside there and support that effort? Because it's going to take that local effort. With Kansas being over 98% privately owned, it's going to be those local landowners that are going to get it done.
Ranchers and landowners are asking for these solutions. And NRCS, we're just a technical agency that fits the need of being able to be in there and provide some technical assistance early on to groups as they're starting to implement the solutions that these scientists bring forth. But then also we can come behind and come alongside landowners and other partners and supplement other sources of funding to help landowners offset the cost of doing these practices and given them the incentive to do something they might not have got onto otherwise.
There is no boundaries. It's one big prairie, and being able to work together. Been trying to work from the outside in for so long and we're just not getting anywhere. And this new idea with this new science has really shown all of us that we're going to work from the inside out. And we're having, just better progress in getting rid of the cedar trees and just all the woody species. And with having that intact prairie, we're just expanding that wildlife habitat, the better grazing distributions for our ranchers. And it's just a win-win all around, not just for the states, but for the prairie, the wildlife, and the ranchers.
Through these initiatives, farmers and ranchers are using a variety of methods to remove woody plants and defend the core of the Great Plains grasslands. The voluntary programs offered to landowners by NRCS are a critical part of the effort.
It takes folks like Dusty Taha with Natural Resource Conservation Service and Doug Spencer. That technical support is invaluable to us. So I'm not necessarily a grass expert, but I know one. I can call on him whenever I have a stupid question. I'm not a water systems expert, but I know a guy that is. I can call on him if I have questions. It takes everybody working together. It's a collaborative effort. And the boots on the ground management is what I provide, what I bring to the table.
There's a lot of help available, again, to get started on it. I would go to NRCS right away and say, hey, what do you have available, to see how that comes into play. And then also look at a burn association in your area and say, hey, how do we work these things together? Because there's not one solution to this thing.
It's clear that left unchecked, invasive woody plants will take over a grassland and drastically limit cattle grazing and wildlife habitat. The desire to protect these grasslands for the future has motivated many ranchers to take advantage of the partnerships available through NRCS.
We definitely recognize that this is a bigger threat than any one landowner or any one agency can deal with. And this is one of the reasons why NRCS is working on pulling together these summits and trying to get so many of these groups set up, these working groups and these coalitions to be able to provide resources to our landowners. Because at the end of the day, what we're really trying to do is keep our ranchers ranching. And we recognize that the cedar and these invasive woody species are a direct threat to keeping ranchers ranching.
My recommendation is always, for any rancher that's wanting to get involved with any NRCS program, and especially GPGI, is make that local visit to the local county conservation district where our NRCS staff is and our conservation district partners are at. The best step is just to start having that conversation.
We always tell everybody, get to your local USDA NRCS office, start working with them, be the boots on the ground, get that free technical service out there to go out and see what's happening on the ground and start that conservation plan, because we all know that's where it starts, and from there, that's where good things happen.
We know the peril that it is. We're proactive. We're trying to fight back. It's coming at us. And the program, the GPGI, and the NRCS is helping us to meet that enemy as it's coming at us.
Reporting from the Great Plains, I'm Brian Baxter for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Still to come, we'll show you how NRCS is working to help test new technologies to improve grazing and resource management on Great Plains ranches. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Cattle producers across the country work hard to care for their animals and their land. The USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service is there to help. Find out how you can work with NRCS to develop a conservation plan for your operation. Find possible funding resources for implementing conservation practices, or get free expert advice on ways to improve your farm or ranch. Visit the website nrcs.usda.gov today.
Join the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. NCBA is the oldest and largest national cattle industry organization working to defend your interests in Washington, D.C. And there are big benefits to being a member. You'll get news you can use in the National Cattlemen, email updates in the NCBA Beef Bulletin, plus big discounts only for NCBA members. Join by calling 866-233-3872 or online at ncba.org.
The USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service works to help landowners protect and improve their natural resources. Sometimes that includes the use of new methods and technologies that can help balance the nutritional needs of cattle with the health of grasslands. Brian Baxter takes us to Kansas to look at a new way to control the movement of cattle and where they graze.
The tallgrass prairies in central Kansas are home to Mush Rush Ranches, a family operation that raises red Angus bulls and females. With a goal of keeping their ranch viable for generations to come, the Mush Rush family is working with the NRCS Great Plains Grassland Initiative to defend their grasslands from woody plant encroachment.
Defending the core, to me, is all about intact grassland. So not only about trees, but having healthy rangeland in our pastures, against any invasive species, against bare ground, really just looking at the health of our pastures and saying what can be better and how can we make this better.
My hope is that we start seeing these defended cores grow in size, that we can actually share the stories of the mush rushes and those individuals that stepped up and said, grasslands are going to win. And if grasslands win, then the mush rushes win, wildlife wins, pollinator wins, soil, the sequestration, carbon wins, and so there's just a lot of wins on the landscape if we can keep this prairie landscape what it is.
One of the unique ways the Mush Rush family is working to fight invasive woody plants and keep their tallgrass prairie healthy for both cattle and wildlife is with a research project testing new virtual fencing technology.
So we've had the opportunity to join up with the Nature Conservancy, Kansas State University, and some other organizations, including NRCS, on a research project involving virtual fence. The major frameworks of this project are to increase habitat for upland game birds, try to repair erosion along waterways. We want to see benefits of grazing along with burning and how maybe there's better ways to rotate through burned areas. And then we also want to change how we utilize areas, such as trailing along fences, cornering cattle, push them out of riparian areas to help with erosion, hilltops versus side slopes. Maybe we can force them into those areas that they don't graze as intensely and give those other areas a break when they need it. So this is the current version of the collar that we're using. It has a battery compartment with a sound vent on it that puts out a sound impulse to warn the cattle when they're entering an area that they should not be in. And then there's an electrical impulse that comes up through the chain, and that is what deters them further if the sound doesn't. There's a training protocol that we go through, and they learn it pretty quickly that the sound means don't go there, and so they quit going in there. And it just hangs around their neck. It does not obstruct grazing.
With traditional fencing costing over $10,000 per mile, the virtual technology has the potential to reduce cost and labor. And so far, Cole is impressed with the ease of managing grazing with a collar keeping each cow where he wants them to be.
So the collars that we're using utilize AM radio and GPS, and we're able to preload the collars with our grazing parameters. And so the collars can go offline from the tower, but because they have their own GPS chip, they will still work. And through virtual fencing, we're able to focus just on our perimeter fence and then not worry about the interior as much. And we use those collars to actually do the rotations that we have planned. And so using the computer program that they have, we can sit down and we can pre-map our entire grazing plan for the year and lay it out visually with satellite images. And so go out, do field notes, mark down areas that we want to stay in, stay out of, and then come in, put it in the program, load it up, put it in the collar, and away we go.
The project is gaining attention. The Mush Rush family and their cows were on the front page of the Wall Street Journal in a feature article describing their virtual fencing test. And Cole says he's excited to be part of a collaborative project where partners, including NRCS, can pass on their results to others.
So with the partnerships, we're utilizing maybe new technology that hasn't been available, and maybe people are a little leery of adapting. And so because we're doing it through this research project, we're kind of sticking our foot in, but not, diving in completely, just getting an idea of what's going on. And so we can show people in the community like, hey, this is gonna work, or maybe it's not. I think it will. The technology has a lot of potential, and we're really excited to see how it plays out in the next 5 years and beyond.
In the tallgrass prairies of Kansas, I'm Brian Baxter reporting for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
If you have conservation practices you'd like to put in place on your operation, you should start by visiting with your local NRCS office about the technical and financial assistance they can provide. Go to their website, nrcs.usda.gov, to find an office near you. Up next, we'll head to South Dakota for a look at a program that's meant to educate and encourage the next generation of cattle feeders. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
By installing Ritchie waterers, you save water while keeping it fresh and always available to your animals. You protect the land by keeping natural water clean and soil healthy. And you conserve power because they're energy efficient. We're committed to helping you create a prosperous, sustainable, and regenerative future. Because we know, like you know, that every saved drop matters. Ritchie, fresh water for life.
This beef quality assurance tip is funded by the Beef Checkoff.
Hi, Jolie Fitzsimons here to talk to you today about the Beef Quality Assurance Program and our online BQA modules. If you've been certified online before, you can now go back and look up your certificate or get recertified online. Go to bqa.org under the certification tab to get logged in. Don't worry if you forgot your password. You can reset it on the site or reach out to customer support for assistance. If you've never been certified before, we'd love for you to head to bqa.org today and get signed up.
The Beef Quality Assurance Program is funded by the Beef Checkoff.
Developing the next generation of cattle producers is critical to the long-term viability of the beef industry. Cattlemen to Cattlemen reporter Matt Fleck has a look at how the South Dakota Cattlemen's Foundation is encouraging young producers who have an interest in the cattle feeding sector.
The South Dakota Cattlemen's Foundation was formed to help ensure the sustainability of the state's beef industry. One way they accomplish that goal is through the Fed Cattle Challenge, a contest for high school students to learn about the science and economics of finishing cattle.
One of our missions at the South Dakota Cattlemen's Foundation is to ensure the long-term viability of the beef industry in the state of South Dakota. And we feel like we need to invest in our youth in order to do that. One area where we saw opportunity was in the cattle feeding sector. We needed a way to get some kids some more cattle feeding experience and exposure. Our state has between 13,000 and 14,000 beef cow-calf operations in the state, but we really have less than 1,000 operations that do any significant cattle feeding.
Participants own 3 head of cattle from a pen at Winner's Circle Feed Yard, while getting an in-depth look at all aspects of the cattle feeding sector.
Winner's Circle's been involved with the Fed Cattle Challenge now for 5 years, and I think the main thing that I've seen come from the program for the kids is exposing them to the commercial feeding side of the business. So how the program works for us at the feed yard level, we procure the cattle, feed the cattle, and then also market the cattle for the kids. And those kids will see the purchase price, get to calculate their own break-evens and do all the business side of it, but they also invest their own money. It's not a pseudo pen of cattle that they're feeding. They're actually investing their own dollars to get this experience. Because the kids are financially invested, I think it really helps them truly understand the dollars and cents. If it was just a pretend investment, if you will, I don't think the kids would really pay as close attention as they do. And we've actually got some results back from the participants themselves that they said that's one of the top things that they actually really enjoy, is that they are financially invested in the program.
I thought it was super important that we invested our own money, because I had real risk in the game. You know, if you were just to sign up for the program without any real risk, you wouldn't really care. But through this program, I found myself really paying attention to the markets and hoping to get a return on my investments.
This was a great opportunity for students like myself to get a real-world look into the cattle feeding sector. We had the opportunity to do sessions and work with the managers on everything from cattle procurement to cattle health to marketing and everything in between.
It taught the students a tremendous amount about not only just the economics, animal health, nutrition, gave them a very in-depth look at an operating feed yard that they probably wouldn't normally get a chance to learn about in South Dakota.
We know there's other programs out there that kids get to send their own cattle to a feed yard and see the results on what they do. But these kids are getting that bi-weekly information on how those cattle are doing and what it's costing and really what it takes to get that pen of cattle to finish. We had another student that, after going through the videos and especially the marketing aspect, said, you know, I've heard my dad and my uncle talk about this stuff before, but I never really understood exactly what it meant. And so that's pretty much exactly what we want to accomplish. We want them to know and to understand what we're doing here.
And our $1,500 winner this year is Harper Kirsch of Platte, South Dakota.
At the conclusion of the program, the top 3 finalists in the contest were honored during the South Dakota Cattlemen's Foundation Primetime Gala. One surprise with this year's group of participants, some of them had no previous experience in agriculture.
It's so important for us to not only look for the next generation of talent, but then really for those young people to get a little perspective on what actually happens on these places, so that down the line, no matter if they come back into agriculture here in our home state or go elsewhere, they've been exposed, they understand the value and the care that's taken of these animals, and really can tell the story of the beef industry no matter where they're at.
I would absolutely encourage everyone who has the opportunity to do this. Even if you're involved in the feedlot and cow-calf operations, it's a great opportunity to see a different size and a different viewpoint. Every feedlot's going to be different, and it's important to learn about as many as you can.
Even if you have a slight interest in the cattle feeding sector, it's a great way to dig in and maybe hone skills in different parts of the business, because at the end of the day, the feed yard does encompass a lot of allied industries. And so being able to gain some knowledge and experience in everything from markets to cattle health, to feeding strategies. The program covers it all, and I think there's something good for everyone in there.
This event not only introduces the next generation of cattle producers to the process of feeding cattle, it also helps to strengthen the overall beef industry in South Dakota.
For us, it was how can we help this next generation add more value to their operations? And in a state where we have a huge number of ranches, we felt like this could be the opportunity to keep more of our young people as well as our cattle right here in our home state.
You know, a lot of kids are raised on family farms and ranches that may not have that opportunity to go back to that ranch, where expanding their business into the commercial feeding side may be an opportunity for them.
My long-term hope is that when these students are done with the program and they're looking for a way to maybe come back to a family farm or to be involved in an operation, you know, creating another revenue source for their operation by considering cattle feeding and having an understanding of what that's really going to mean for their operation.
Reporting from South Dakota, I'm Matt Fleck for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Now, if you've missed an episode of Cattlemen to Cattlemen or want to rewatch a favorite story, you can do so by visiting our YouTube page. You'll find replays of all our shows filled with educational segments and producer profiles from all across the country. So check us out on YouTube. Still to come, we'll preview CattleCon and some of the great things to see and do at this can't-miss event. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
There's coverage, and then there's more coverage, and that's Bovolus Vista Once SQ, the most comprehensive respiratory vaccine covering more causes of BRD. It covers IBR, BVD types 1, 1B and 2, BRSV, PI3, Pastorella multocida, and Mannheimia hemolytica. And as for BVD type 1B and Pastorella, no other vaccine covers both. So don't wonder if you could have done more. Do it with Bovolus Vista Once SQ.
We're a little over 4 months away from CattleCon, which is officially the new name of the annual Cattle Industry Convention. And joining us now is Emily DeSormo, NCBA's Associate Director of Marketing and Trade Show. Emily, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Of course, the CattleCon event is an important event for the entire industry. And while we may call it a different name, the same important business takes place. Tell us a little bit about what happens during the week and why it's so important to attend.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is where the beef industry meets. So cattle producers from all across the country are able to come and have their voices heard, whether it's in region meetings, the DC Issues Updates meeting, policy committee meetings. Producers are able to come and let us know what's going on, what's affecting them and their operations, and then we can go back to DC and really make change for the industry.
And the trade show, let's talk about that event because it's such a huge draw to so many people. Tell us a little bit about what you have in store for the trade show this year.
Oh, absolutely everything. I mean, the trade show is literally the cattle industry under one roof. We have tractors, trailers, live animals, anything you can think of. Our exhibitors make up everything under the industry. So if you're looking for it, we have it. And it's just a great place to really come, learn, and take something away back to your operation.
I know one of the things I personally enjoy most about the convention is the opportunity to just network with folks and reconnect with my friends from all across the country. And your team does such a great job creating those networking experiences. Tell us what you have in store for Orlando.
So we have a great zesty lineup of events for the week. We're going to be kicking things off with the Flamingo Fiesta welcome reception. So attendees are encouraged to flamingle around the trade show and really just kind of see what Orlando has to offer. So we're really excited for that. At the end of the week, we're going to be rounding things out with the Cowboys and Coasters at Universal Studios Friday night event. So you might want to leave your cowboy hats at home because we're going to be riding rides and having a great time with food, music, all of those great things.
What do people tell you about the value they see in gathering together with other beef producers each year?
Well, besides just learning from each other, which is always a great opportunity that CattleCon provides, producers are also able just to connect and even reconnect with their fellow producers from all across the country. I know for me, I always love reconnecting with attendees and exhibitors each year, and that's what I hear back from them as well.
You know, there are a lot of ways to attend and participate in this event. You have multiple different types of registrations that people can take advantage of depending on their schedule and their priorities. Tell us about some of those options.
Yeah, so we like to make it easy. I mean, we want you to come to CattleCon and we want to make sure that the registration fits you and your needs. With it being Orlando and the families are definitely encouraged to come, we have our family pack. So that includes the CattleCon registrations, guest registrations, and student registrations. So really great opportunity for you to bring your family and save a little bit. We also have our education package that includes Cattlemen's College, which is a great opportunity just to further your education, whether you're a seasoned veteran or a newbie to CattleCon. And then we have one day onlys, and that can be all of CattleCon or just the trade show itself. So really anything and everything to fit your needs.
Great location, great schedule. It should be a wonderful time in sunny Orlando, Florida. Thanks for coming today.
Thanks for having me.
Now, it's not too early to start making plans to attend the next CattleCon coming up January 31st through February 2nd in beautiful Orlando, Florida. Registration is now open, and you can get all the details at the website convention.ncba.org. As we gear up for CattleCon, we're excited to highlight some of the great work being done by Florida's beef producers. Matt Fleck has a look at an 8th-generation rancher who manages his land and cattle with an eye towards the future.
On a steamy Florida morning, it's not unusual to find Matt Pierce on horseback, moving cattle from one pasture to another. Matt manages his cattle and the land, as his family has been doing for generations.
We're out here on the landscape trying to provide habitat for wildlife and the cattle that we care for. We're also caring for the land. It's not just a cattle ranch that we're just deriving all of our income off of. I mean, we have an enjoyment. I'm 8th-generation Florida rancher that's enjoyed the landscape, whether it be hunting or the conservation or just, seeing turkey come off the roost in the morning.
In addition to his cattle, Matt also manages water that flows over and around his land. This provides valuable wildlife habitat, and it filters the water before it flows to Lake Okeechobee and eventually the ocean.
The perception is that the ranchers along the river are the ones that are polluting, the lake. And I think this would be typical across the country that if we were polluting our resource, then we couldn't be sustainable and we couldn't pass it along to the next generation. And that's hard to comprehend from the folks in town or in the urban areas, but what we do to the land is gonna affect our next generation. And that's what we're raising, the next generation to come care for the land and make their livelihood on it. And it is important to us. We're not only in the beef business, but we're in the conservation business. We're protecting the land, we're recharging the aquifer, we're storing water. All these benefits, it's kind of a trade-off. We do these things for the general public, and the trade-off is buying beef and consuming safe and nutritious product.
As a past president of the Florida Cattlemen's, Matt is a believer in the value of cattlemen working together to advocate for the beef industry, not only through his state organization, but also through the work of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association.
I'm an NCBA member because I feel strongly about our association and how they represent us in Washington, D.C. I'm active. I go to the meetings. I try to go to Washington, D.C. as much as I can, but they have a full staff that's very in tune to the issues that are going on, from international trade to our markets. I've got all my trust in NCBA that they're looking out for me, and that's a small token that I can do to have that representation, because I couldn't hire that team on my own to represent me.
Though there's never a shortage of work to do on the ranch, Matt is looking forward to taking a few days away to attend CattleCon 2024, which will be an easy drive for him.
The next NCBA convention is going to be in Orlando, Florida, which is about an hour and a half north of here on the north end of the lake. I'm excited to show off Florida and what we do down here. Every state's different, but Florida has its challenges and its benefits. But I've been to the NCBA convention for the last 25 years. And with the trade show and the meetings and the networking, I mean, it's an awesome experience that I would encourage, all of my fellow cattlemen to participate in.
In Florida, I'm Matt Fleck for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Well, that wraps up this edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks so much for spending time with us. We'll see you again next week right here on RFD TV.